When was the last time you looked in the mirror and actually held yourself accountable? Not blaming circumstances, not blaming people, not blaming opportunities you didn't get. Just you standing face to face with the person responsible for everything you are and everything you're not. Most people spend their lives pointing outward, but the moment you start pointing inward, your entire life changes. Because the truth is simple, you don't rise to your goals. You fall to the level of your habits, your discipline, your mindset, and the standards you set for yourself. You don't rise to your goals because goals don't change you, your daily behavior does. Most people think setting a bigger target will magically transform them, but nothing changes if their habits don't. A goal is a direction, not a guarantee. And the moment you realize that your routines matter more than your dreams, you finally understand why so many people stay stuck. They keep aiming higher while living lower, wanting more while doing less, expecting growth while repeating the same patterns. Your habits are the real ceiling of your life, and until they change, your results never will. Every day, you are either reinforcing discipline or reinforcing weakness, and there is no neutral action in between. When you choose comfort, you're teaching yourself to settle. When you choose distraction, you're training your mind to avoid the work that creates growth. When you procrastinate, you program yourself to stay average. The opposite is also true every time you push yourself, even in small ways. You build the identity of someone who follows through. That identity becomes your advantage, because the world always rewards consistency more than talent. Upgrading your standards means redefining what's acceptable in your life. The version of you that gets everything you want doesn't tolerate the same excuses, the same laziness, the same mental shortcuts that you allow today. If you expect your life to rise, you have to raise the minimum level of effort you're willing to give. Not your maximum effort, your minimum, because anyone can be all in once in a while. Winners are the ones who stay all in long after the excitement fades and discipline becomes the only fuel left. Your habits shape the person you become, and the person you become determines the opportunities you attract. You can't fake discipline. You can't pretend to be consistent. You can't wish your way into a stronger mindset. The people who win in life don't have better luck. They have better patterns. They build days filled with actions that compound into results, so big people later call them overnight success. But the truth is, nothing about it was overnight. It was built one disciplined day at a time. If you want different outcomes, you need different habits. You can't keep waking up at the same time, consuming the same content, surrounding yourself with the same people, and expect a different future. Nothing extraordinary grows in an ordinary environment. You must create the structure that forces you to rise. You must build days that challenge you instead of days that comfort you. And you must stay committed even when your motivation dies, because motivation is temporary, but discipline is transferable to every part of your life. Your standards decide your speed. When you raise them, everything in your life shifts. You stop negotiating with yourself. You stop allowing the weaker version of you to run the show. You stop letting temporary feelings dictate long-term outcomes. This is where growth happens, not in moments of hype, but in moments of decision, when you choose to do what must be done instead of what feels good in the moment. This is the difference between people who talk about success and people who live it. Your habits are the real scoreboard, not your intentions, not your plans, not the life you say you want. What you repeatedly do is the truth. People get exposed or elevated by their habits because habits don't lie. If your rituals are weak, your results will be weak. If your standards are low, your progress will be slow. If your discipline is inconsistent, your success will be inconsistent. Life mirrors the level of commitment you give it, and you cannot cheat the process no matter how much you want to. Upgrade your habits and your identity evolves. Upgrade your identity and your decisions improve. Upgrade your decisions and your entire life changes. This is the cycle that separates the ones who talk about change from the ones who actually transform. Your mindset is the operating system that determines how you interpret challenges, how you respond to pressure, and how you make decisions that shape your future. Most people run their lives on outdated belief systems, thoughts they inherited from their environment, limitations they accepted without questioning, and fears they never bothered to confront. They keep trying to upgrade their results while operating on a mental software that can't support the life they want. Just like a device slows down when the system is outdated, your life slows down when your thinking is stuck in old patterns that no longer serve you. An outdated mindset convinces you that your best days are behind you, that your abilities are fixed, and that growth is reserved for people who are naturally gifted. It tricks you into believing that effort won't make a difference or that failure is a sign you should quit. It pushes you to avoid risks, avoid discomfort, and avoid anything that threatens your ego. This type of thinking keeps you trapped in cycles of hesitation, overthinking, and self-sabotage. You might not even realize it because these beliefs are so deeply ingrained that they feel like truth when in reality, they're just old mental habits. When your mindset lags behind your goals, even the best strategies won't work because the internal resistance will always overpower external effort. You'll second guess every step, procrastinate on every decision, and look for shortcuts instead of solutions. You'll interpret setbacks as signs that you aren't capable instead of evidence that you're growing. You'll choose comfort because it feels safer than progress, even though it quietly destroys your potential. The problem isn't lack of opportunity, it's that your current mindset lacks the capacity to recognize and seize it. Upgrading your mindset means confronting the beliefs that hold you back and replacing them with beliefs that move you forward. It means understanding that your thoughts aren't commands and patterns can be rewritten. You begin by becoming aware of the stories you tell yourself, especially the ones that sound like excuses. Then you challenge them. You question whether they are facts or fears. You question whether they empower you or limit you. You question whether they align with the person you're trying to become or the person you're trying to leave behind. A stronger mindset doesn't magically appear. It's built through intentional exposure to discomfort, challenge, and responsibility. You upgrade your thinking by doing hard things, by proving to yourself that you can endure more than you believed, and by taking ownership of your actions instead of blaming circumstances. Every difficult task you complete becomes evidence that you can handle more. Every disciplined choice becomes proof that you're not controlled by feelings. Every moment you push through resistance becomes reinforcement that your new identity is forming. When you elevate your mindset, your perception shifts. Problems become puzzles. Delays become tests. Failures become data. Instead of seeing obstacles as walls, you begin to see them as checkpoints that confirm you're on the right path. You stop expecting the journey to be easy and start expecting yourself to be capable. This shift alone changes how you approach every opportunity, every challenge, and every goal you set for yourself. As your mindset strengthens, your decisions improve because you're no longer making choices from fear or insecurity. You start choosing what aligns with your future instead of what comforts your present. You make decisions based on logic instead of emotion, consistency instead of convenience, and long-term gain instead of instant gratification. This is when your life begins to move faster, not because the world changed, but because you did. A fully upgraded mindset becomes your competitive advantage because most people never do this work. They upgrade their phones, their clothes, their lifestyle, but never their thinking. They chase external validation instead of internal evolution. But once you upgrade the operating system in your mind, everything you build, your habits, your goals, your identity, runs at a higher level naturally. Every choice you make is a vote for the person you're becoming, and most people don't realize how much power lives inside the tiny decisions they treat like they don't matter. Waking up on time, doing the work you promised, keeping your word, following through even when no one is watching. These are not small actions, they're training sessions. Every one of them is shaping your identity. If you choose discipline, you're building the internal strength that compounds into massive results. If you choose excuses, you're reinforcing a mindset that guarantees you stay exactly where you are. Discipline isn't about intensity, it's about repetition. People think success comes from big breakthroughs, but breakthroughs come from consistent reps done when you feel like doing anything else. You can show up strong once, twice, even for a week. But the people who rise are the ones who show up on the days when motivation disappears, when energy is low, when doubt creeps in, and when quitting feels more convenient than continuing. Those days don't break you, they build you. They carve out the mental toughness that separates the committed from the comfortable. Excuses feel harmless in the moment because they give you temporary relief, but they slowly destroy your confidence. Every time you justify skipping the work, you're teaching yourself that you can't rely on your own word. And if you can't trust yourself, you can't build anything meaningful. Excuses are disguised permission slips for mediocrity. They may protect your ego for a moment, but they cost you progress for a lifetime. The worst part is, the more you use them, the easier they become. They form their own habit loop, and once you live inside that loop, breaking out becomes harder every day. Strength, on the other hand, comes from leaning into resistance. Discipline is uncomfortable because it forces you to confront your limits. But that discomfort is the proof that you're growing. It means you're pushing beyond the threshold that keeps most people weak. Think of it like lifting weights. Your muscles don't grow unless you challenge them. Your life works the same way. Without resistance, there is no growth. Without discomfort, there is no strength. Without discipline, there is no transformation. Every disciplined choice you make becomes a rep for your future. It reinforces the identity of someone who follows through, someone who is reliable, someone who is capable of doing hard things even when the world tempts them with easier options. These reps stack over time. They shape your character, your resilience, your mindset, and eventually, they shape your destiny. Even the smallest act of discipline today can shift the direction of your life over the next year. You just have to keep stacking. What you repeatedly choose becomes your default behavior. If you choose discipline enough times, it becomes your instinct. You stop negotiating with yourself. You stop relying on motivation. You stop craving shortcuts. Your body and mind begin to operate in alignment with your goals automatically. That's the level where success becomes predictable, not because life gets easier, but because you get stronger. The discipline you build becomes armor, protecting you from distractions and shielding you from the chaos that derails others. Excuses are also reps, but they train weakness. Every "I'll do it tomorrow," every "I'm too tired," every "doesn't matter" is a rep for the version of you that stays stuck. Those reps build a completely different identity, one that avoids accountability, one that settles for less, one that hides behind comfort instead of stepping into challenge. And just like discipline, excuses compound. One skip task becomes two. Two becomes a week becomes a mindset becomes a lifestyle. Before you know it, you've trained yourself into a life you never wanted. Choosing your reps is choosing your future. Every moment is a chance to condition strength or condition weakness. There is no neutral, no pause, no standing still. You're either building discipline or building excuses, and the results you get in life will always match the reps you choose daily. Focusing on yourself is often misunderstood because people assume it means ignoring others, but in reality, it means taking responsibility for the one thing you can fully control, your own growth. When you stop scattering your attention on what everyone else is doing and start turning that energy inward, you begin to notice the gaps in your habits, the holes in your mindset, and the patterns that keep repeating because you've never taken the time to confront them. Most people stay distracted by comparison, gossip, judgment, and watching other people's progress, but none of that builds anything. When you shift all that energy back to improving yourself, your life starts to align in ways that once felt impossible. People who don't focus on themselves often rely on external validation to feel valuable. They need attention, praise, or recognition to feel like their life has meaning. The problem is, external validation is temporary. It disappears the moment people stop clapping. But when you build your value from within, from skills, discipline, character, and self-awareness, you become someone who does not need validation to take action. Your confidence becomes rooted in what you've built, not in what people think. You stop chasing approval and start chasing improvement. And that shift alone can change the trajectory of your entire life. The more you invest in yourself, the more capable you become of handling life's pressure. Instead of breaking under stress, you learn to grow under it. Instead of fearing challenges, you begin to seek them because you understand their opportunities to expand your limits. When you focus on yourself, you stop seeing problems as attacks and start seeing them as tests that reveal what needs to be strengthened next. You become less reactive, less emotional, and more strategic. Life stops feeling chaotic because you start becoming the kind of person who thrives in chaos. Focusing on yourself also forces you to separate your identity from your environment. You stop blaming people, circumstances, or timing for your lack of progress. You stop giving responsibility for your future to things outside your control. When you take full ownership, you reclaim your power. You realize that no one is coming to rescue you, no one owes you anything, and no one will magically fix your life. That realization isn't depressing, it's liberating. Because the moment you stop waiting for someone to save you, you become the person who starts saving yourself. Your ability to stay focused on your own path creates a level of consistency that most people never reach. They get distracted by what others have, who's ahead, who's behind, who's watching, and who's not. You don't. You build a tunnel vision that makes your daily habits unshakable. Your mornings, your routines, your standards, they stop being negotiable. You're no longer pulled by trends or opinions because you're anchored in your own mission. That kind of focus creates momentum, and momentum creates transformation. The more you grow, the more you separate yourself from the mindset that keeps people stuck. You stop needing to impress, you stop needing to compete, and you stop needing to prove anything. Your focus becomes internal, not external. Your only comparison is the person you were yesterday. Your only competition is your own potential, and your only priority is becoming the strongest, most capable version of yourself. That level of self-focus creates clarity, and clarity eliminates 90% of the noise that usually distracts people. Focusing on yourself also improves every relationship in your life, even though people rarely acknowledge it. When you become stronger, more disciplined, more grounded, and more self-aware, you naturally show up better for the people around you. You communicate better, you lead better, you support better, you inspire better. Improving yourself is the most generous thing you can do because your growth lifts everyone connected to you. Weak people drain, strong people elevate. Which one you become depends on whether you choose to focus on your own evolution. And as you continue to grow, You realize that the world responds differently to you. Opportunities that once passed you by start noticing you. Doors that were closed start opening. People begin to treat you according to the value you've built internally, not because the world changed, but because you did. When you focus on yourself, you stop waiting for breakthroughs, you create them. Your life improves the moment you stop waiting for permission and start acting like the person you want to become, because permission is just another form of delay disguised as caution. Most people don't even realize how much time they lose asking for validation before making a move. Validation from family, friends, society, or some imaginary group of people whose approval they believe they need. But the truth is, no one is thinking about your life as much as you are, and no one is responsible for building it except you. Waiting for permission is the fastest way to waste it, because life doesn't reward the hesitant, it rewards the decisive. The person you want to become already exists in your mind, but you treat that version like a distant dream instead of a daily requirement. You convince yourself you're not ready, not skilled enough, not confident enough, not knowledgeable enough. And that one day, when circumstances magically align, you'll finally start. But nothing changes because you never take the actions that create readiness. Confidence doesn't show up before action. It's built through action. You don't get clarity by waiting. You get clarity by moving. Acting like the future version of yourself is the only way to become that version. When you stop hesitating and start behaving like the person you're trying to become, something powerful shifts inside you. You begin making decisions differently. You start choosing long-term growth over short-term comfort. You stop negotiating with your excuses because you understand they don't align with your future. The identity you step into begins to shape your thoughts, your habits, and your standards. You become more intentional, more focused, and more committed because you're no longer operating from who you were, you're operating from who you're becoming. The world also begins to respond differently to you, not because it suddenly changes, but because you show up differently. People take you more seriously when you take yourself seriously. Opportunities gravitate toward people who move with conviction. Growth surrounds people who act with purpose. When you start embodying the mindset, discipline, and confidence of your future self, you naturally attract situations, people, and chances that match that energy. Your external world begins to reflect the internal transformation taking place. Acting like the person you want to become forces you to confront your limitations. You start noticing where your discipline fails, where your habits fall short, and where your beliefs restrict you. This awareness isn't comfortable, but it's necessary. You can't transform without exposing the parts of yourself that need upgrading. Every step you take toward your future self reveals another weakness that needs strengthening, another skill that needs developing, or another belief that needs replacing. But this is how evolution happens, one layer at a time, through relentless honesty and intentional effort. The moment you stop waiting is the moment you start learning. You discover that the path forward is built through experience, not imagination. Taking action gives you feedback, real honest feedback that helps you adjust, refine, and improve. Every attempt teaches you something about your strengths, your weaknesses, your resilience, and your potential. You begin to realize that failure isn't something to fear, but something to use. It becomes a tool instead of an obstacle, a guide instead of a threat. You grow not despite your mistakes, but because of them. When you begin acting like your future self, consistency becomes non-negotiable. You show up even when you don't feel like it. You work even when no one notices. You train your mind to follow through instead of follow feelings. This consistency compounds. It builds discipline, and discipline builds identity. Over time, you look back and realize that you're no longer pretending to be the person you want to be. You've actually become them. And it happened through daily choices, not dramatic moments. Transformation doesn't require permission. It requires action. The life you want isn't waiting for someone to approve it. It's waiting for you to step into it with the conviction that you are capable, deserving, and ready to build it from the ground up. Nothing changes until you do, because your external world is always a reflection of your internal patterns. People try to rearrange their circumstances without ever rearranging themselves, and then wonder why nothing sticks. They change jobs, change environments, change routines, change friends. But if the mindset running those decisions stays the same, the results stay the same. You can't outrun your own habits. You can't escape the identity you haven't upgraded yet. Life doesn't transform just because you want it to. It transforms when you become someone who thinks, acts, and operates at a higher level. Becoming the upgraded version of yourself starts with radical self-honesty. You have to look at the beliefs that limit you, the behaviors that weaken you, and the patterns that keep you circling the same problems. You have to admit what you've been avoiding, where you've been inconsistent, and where you've been settling. This honesty isn't meant to make you feel guilty. It's meant to give you clarity. You can't improve a version of yourself you won't acknowledge. The upgraded version begins where the excuses end, and that shift happens the moment you stop defending your limitations. Every upgrade comes with a sacrifice, and most people never change because they don't want to let go of the comfort that comes with staying the same. They want better outcomes without better habits. They want new opportunities without new responsibilities. They want different results without different decisions. But the life you want lives on the other side of the traits you haven't developed yet. You can't access a higher level with the same mindset that kept you surviving instead of thriving. Growth demands that you release the version of yourself that's attached to comfort. When you commit to becoming the upgraded version of yourself, your standards shift automatically. You stop accepting half effort. You stop tolerating excuses. You stop giving energy to distractions that don't match your goals. You start operating with intention instead of impulse. You begin moving like someone who respects their time, their future, and their potential. This identity shift changes how you speak, how you think, how you plan, and how you execute. You start building your life instead of waiting for it to happen. The upgraded version of you doesn't make decisions based on fear or convenience. You make decisions based on alignment and growth. You start choosing things that challenge you because you understand that challenge is the only way to evolve. You stop taking shortcuts because you know shortcuts rob you of the strength you need for the long journey ahead. You stop waiting for motivation because you understand discipline is the real engine of transformation. The upgraded version is built from consistent action, not occasional inspiration. Your reality begins to shift because your behavior shifts. You show up differently. You communicate differently. You think at a higher level. You take responsibility instead of running from it. You become someone who can handle opportunities, not someone who collapses under them. And when you show life that you're capable of more, life gives you more. People start treating you according to the strength you carry. Opportunities start appearing because you've become someone who won't waste them. Progress accelerates because your actions finally match your ambitions. Transformation isn't sudden, it's gradual. But the compound effect of small, upgraded decisions is powerful. One disciplined day becomes two. Two becomes a week. A habit becomes a lifestyle becomes a new identity, and one day you wake up realizing you no longer relate to the version of yourself who doubted, hesitated, or underestimated their potential. You've built someone stronger, sharper, and more capable, one disciplined choice at a time. Your entire reality shifts when you upgrade the internal blueprint that shapes your life. You stop reacting and start creating. You stop hoping and start executing. You stop dreaming and start building. The change doesn't start outside of you. It starts within you, in the decisions you make, the identity you adopt, and the standards you elevate. Only then does your world begin to match the person you've become. You've spent too much of your life waiting for the right moment, the right opportunity, the right feeling to finally move, but the truth is the right moment isn't coming. The only thing that changes your life is the moment you decide you're done living below your potential. You don't need more signs, more motivation, or more reassurance. You need to make a choice, a real one, the kind that flips a switch inside you and makes you impossible to stop. Because once you choose to rise, everything around you will eventually rise with you. There's a version of you that already knows what you're capable of, and it's been buried under excuses, fears, distractions, and a lifetime of playing small. It's time to drag that version out. It's time to build the habits, the mindset, and the discipline that match the future you say you want. No more half effort, no more almost commitment, no more pretending you don't know what needs to be done. Deep down, you already know the work required. You're just done avoiding it. The world doesn't give power to people who wait. It gives power to people who move. People who show up when it's uncomfortable. People who bet on themselves even when the odds aren't perfect. People who act like the person they want to become long before they feel ready. That's where the shift happens, not when life gets easier, but when you get stronger. This is your line in the sand. The moment you stop negotiating with your old habits. The moment you separate from the version of yourself that held you back. The moment you step into the identity of someone who builds instead of wishes, who works instead of waits, who leads instead of follows. Your future isn't earned through thoughts. It's earned through action, repetition, and commitment. No more looking around, no more waiting for permission. No more shrinking to fit where you no longer belong. From this moment forward, move like someone who knows exactly where they're going and exactly what they're capable of. Your time isn't tomorrow. It's not someday. It's the moment you decide to rise, and that moment is right now.